Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're focusing on a really pivotal organization in India, the Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI.
That's right. It's the country's main domestic crime investigation agency. You definitely hear its name quite a bit.
Absolutely. And in this deep dive, we really want to get past the headlines, don't we?
Yeah, exactly. The plan is to properly understand the CBI right from its roots. Where did it actually come from? How is it structured? What powers does it have?
Yeah.
And, touch on some of the complexities, even controversies.
Precisely. So by the end, you, our listeners, should have a much clearer picture of the CBI's role, its part in maintaining law and order, and importantly, tackling corruption in India.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's start at the beginning then. Where did this all kick off?
Well, it's got a pretty interesting history, actually. It dates all the way back to 1941, so during World War II.
World War II.
Yeah, the British government set up something called the Special Police Establishment, the SPE. Its job was specifically to look into bribery and corruption cases within the War and Supply Department.
Ah, wartime needs.
Exactly. And interestingly, its first headquarters wasn't even in Delhi. It was in Lahore.
Lahore, wow, that really places it historically, pre-partition India.
Absolutely. And just as little details, the first superintendent was a gentleman named Korban Ali Khan, and the first legal advisor was Rai Sahib Karam Chand Jain.
Interesting name. So, okay, the war ends. Did they just disband the SPE then?
Well, no, not really. The problem, corruption involving central government staff, it didn't just vanish after the war.
Right, I can imagine.
So the SPE was moved over to the Home Department, and this led to a really key piece of law, the Delhi Special Police Establishment Act, the DSPE Act. That was passed in 1946.
Okay, 1946. And that's important because...
Because it's fundamentally the legal bedrock for the CBI. It provides the legal basis for its powers, its very existence, even today.
Got it. So the DSPE Act is the foundation, but when did the name CBI actually come into being?
The Central Bureau of Investigation, the CBI as we know it, was officially formed a bit later in 1963.
Ah, okay.
But, and this is crucial, it was formed under that very same 1946 DSPE Act. That act is the source of its legal power.
Right, right. So it evolved from that wartime anti-corruption focus. What's its job description now? What kind of cases does the CBI handle? And how far does its authority reach?
Well, like we said, it started with bribery and government corruption. That was the core. But in 1965, its mandate got a lot broader.
How so?
It was given the authority to investigate breaches of central laws, laws enforced by the central government, plus multi-state organized crime, cases that involve several different agencies, and even cases that cross international borders.
International cases, too. That sounds like a pretty wide scope.
It is, and administratively, it falls under the Ministry of Personnel, Public Grievances, and Pensions. And importantly, it acts as India's official liaison with Interpol.
Interpol, right, the International Police Cooperation Body. Okay. And where's the main CBI hub?
Their headquarters building is in the CGO complex in New Delhi. It's near the Jawaharlal Nehru Stadium, for those familiar with the area.
Okay. So who leads this whole operation? What does the leadership structure look like?
At the very top, you have the director. This person is always an Indian Police Service or IPS officer holding the rank of Director General of Police, a very senior position.
And who's the current director?
As of now, the director is Praveen Sood.
Praveen Sood. Okay. And how does someone get chosen for that job? Sounds like a pretty critical appointment.
Oh, absolutely. The selection process is quite high level. There's a specific committee set up under the DSPE Act, the same act we mentioned, as it was amended by the Lokpal and Lokayuktas Act in 2013.
A committee selects them.
Yes, a multi-member committee. It includes the Prime Minister, the Leader of the Opposition in the Lok Sabha, and the Chief Justice of India, or Supreme Court judge nominated by the CGI. So it's designed to have cross-party and judicial oversight.
Okay, that makes sense for such a key role. What about their tenure? How long do they stay in the post?
The director gets a fixed minimum term of 2 years.
2 years minimum.
Right. But that term can be extended year by year for up to 3 more years.
Yeah.
So potentially a 5-year term in total, which allows for some continuity.
Okay. And below the director, is it a standard police hierarchy?
Pretty much, yeah. It follows a fairly traditional structure. You have the director, then special directors, additional directors, joint directors, then down to Deputy Inspector General or DIG, Superintendent of Police, SP, additional SP, Deputy SP, DITEVI, and then the ranks you might be more familiar with from local police, sub-inspectors, assistant sub-inspectors, head constables, and constables.
Right. Quite a pyramid structure. It certainly sounds like a big, complex organization. What about their facilities, their operational base?
Well, that headquarters building in Delhi we mentioned, it's quite something. It costs around 186 crore apparently. It's 11 stories high
Wow.
and equipped with modern communication systems, record management, high security, specialized rooms for interrogation. They even have, like, a huge cafeteria for 500 people, gyms, a terrace garden, parking. It gives you a sense of the scale.
It really does paint a picture of a major national agency. Now, I saw something in our notes about a new system called Faratpol. What's that?
Ah, yes, Faratpol. This is very new, actually. Launched just this year, January 7th, 2025, by the Home Minister.
Okay, brand new. And what does it do?
It's basically a platform developed by the CBI to seriously speed up and streamline how they communicate and work with Interpol.
So making that international connection faster.
Exactly. It allows for really quick, secure sharing of Interpol notices, alerts and requests for information,
Mm-hmm.
and it integrates data from all 195 Interpol member countries.
So local police here could get info from, say, Brazil or Japan much quicker.
That's the idea. Near instant access to assistance requests, access to Interpol's databases, which have like 19 different types of critical info. This should really help speed up responses, especially for things like red corner notices.
The international wanted alerts.
Right. And it's aimed at tackling cross-border crime, cybercrime, drug trafficking, human trafficking, terrorism, that sort of thing. An Interpol notice, it could be an alert for a wanted person or a missing person or even a potential threat. Fraudpol aims to make handling all that much smoother.
Sounds like a potentially powerful tool, especially today. What about training the people who use these systems and run these investigations?
Good question. The CBI has its own dedicated training facility, the CBI Academy. It's located in Ghaziabad, which is near Delhi.
Right.
Established back in '96, it's a pretty large campus, over 26 acres. Got everything needed for training: admin buildings, classrooms, hostels, staff housing.
And its location? Is it easy to get to?
Well, it's a little bit out of the way, about 40 kilometers from the New Delhi railway station and maybe 65 kilometers from the main international airport. So not right in the city center.
Okay, so they have the building, the tech, the training. But let's get into their powers on the ground.
Yeah.
I often hear about this issue needing permission from state governments to investigate.
Yes, this is absolutely critical. It's a major factor defining how the CBI operates. You see, under India's constitution, policing and law and order are primarily state subjects.
Meaning the state governments are in charge of policing within their own borders.
Exactly. So as a general rule, the CBI needs the consent of the relevant state government before it can start investigating a case within that state.
Right. And does this consent come in different flavors, so to speak?
It does. There are basically two types. First is general consent. This is like a standing invitation from the state government allowing the CBI to investigate any relevant case within its territory without needing permission every single time.
Okay, like an open door policy.
Sort of, yeah, until the state decides to withdraw it. The second type is specific consent. If a state hasn't given general consent or has withdrawn it, the CBI needs to ask for permission on a case-by-case basis.
And it seems like more states have been pulling back that general consent lately.
Yes, that's definitely been a trend. Our sources, as of around mid-2023, suggested that 9 states had withdrawn their general consent.
9 states? Wow. Which ones?
The list included West Bengal, Maharashtra, Kerala, Punjab, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, among others. And just to clarify, there might have been some earlier mentions of 8, but the latest count seemed to be 9.
Okay. And why would states do that? Why withdraw consent?
Well, the stated reasons can vary, but often it gets political. For instance, West Bengal, when they withdrew it in 2018, publicly accused the central government of using federal agencies, including the CBI, to basically destabilize the state government for political reasons.
Ah, the political tool argument.
Precisely. It highlights that tension, that potential friction between the central agency and state governments, especially when different parties are in power.
So if a state withdraws general consent, is the CBI completely blocked from investigating there unless the state agrees specifically?
Not entirely. There's an important exception. The higher courts, the state high courts and the Supreme Court of India, have the power to order the CBI to investigate a case anywhere in India, even without the state's consent.
Ah, the courts can override it.
Yes. The Supreme Court confirmed this in a major ruling back in 2010, but they also stressed it's an extraordinary power. It's meant to be used sparingly, cautiously, only in really exceptional situations, maybe to protect fundamental rights or when the local police investigation is compromised.
Okay, so it's a safety valve, but not a routine thing. And I think I saw something about a Kerala High Court ruling. Adding another layer.
Yes, that's another interesting wrinkle. The Kerala High Court ruled that the state's own anti-corruption body, the Vigilance and Anti-Corruption Bureau, or VACB,
Uh-huh.
they also have the authority to investigate corruption cases involving central government employees who are working within Kerala.
Even though the CBI might normally handle those.
Exactly. The court basically said that neither the main anti-corruption law, the Prevention of Corruption Act, nor the CBI's own DSPE Act explicitly forbid state agencies from investigating these cases or give the CBI exclusive jurisdiction.
So you could potentially have both a state agency and the CBI looking into the same kind of case.
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
It adds complexity to that whole jurisdictional picture.
It really does sound like a delicate balancing act. Okay, let's shift gears slightly. What about transparency? Accountability. How open is the CBI?
Well, this is another area that sparks debate. Since June 2011, the CBI has been officially exempted from the Right to Information Act, the RTI Act.
Exempted, meaning people can't file RTI requests to get information from them?
Largely, yes. The government granted this exemption citing national security concerns and the sensitive nature of the CBI's work.
And has that gone unchallenged?
Oh no, it's been criticized. The Central Information Commission itself wasn't happy, nor were many RTI activists. They argue that a blanket exemption for such a powerful agency isn't great for transparency or accountability.
Makes sense.
However, it's worth noting the Madras High Court did uphold the exemption, acknowledging the sensitivities involved. So, the bottom line is, getting detailed info on CBI cases or internal matters via RTI is generally not possible.
That certainly raises questions for public oversight. Okay, let's talk about results. How effective are they at actually convicting people? Do we have numbers on conviction rates?
We do have some data for recent years, and the conviction rates reported by the CBI are generally quite high, actually, for the cases that go all the way through trial.
What did the numbers look like?
Well, in 2018, it was around 68%. Then it went up slightly to about 69.2% in 2019 and almost 70% in 2020. It dipped a bit in 2021 to 67.6%, but then jumped up quite significantly in 2022 to nearly 75%.
75%. That sounds quite high for conviction rates.
It is relatively high, yes. It suggests that in the cases they do bring to final judgment, they often secure a conviction. Of course, this doesn't capture cases dropped, withdrawn, or stuck in trial for years.
Right, context is important. Now, despite those numbers, the CBI seems to attract a lot of controversy and criticism. What are some of the recurring themes here?
Yes. Perhaps the most famous criticism came from a Supreme Court judge back in 2013. He described the CBI as a caged parrot speaking in its master's voice.
Wow, that's a powerful image. What did he mean?
It basically summed up the persistent worry about political interference. The concern that the agency might not be truly independent, but rather influenced by whichever political party is running the central government at the time.
Regardless of which party it is.
Exactly. It's a criticism that has surfaced under different governments. And that perception, whether fully accurate in every case or not, can really damage public trust.
I can see that. Are there other kinds of criticisms too?
Yes, sadly. There have been allegations, sometimes even from former CBI officers, about things like nepotism within the agency, cases of wrongful prosecution, and even internal corruption.
Really? Corruption within the CBI itself?
There have been such allegations, yes. And information sometimes comes out through RTI, despite the exemption, or through media investigations, suggesting alleged manipulation or attempts to derail certain probes. And then, as we discussed with state consent, there's that recurring charge from states that the CBI is used to target political rivals.
Right. Have specific high-profile cases really fueled these criticisms?
Absolutely. There's quite a list, unfortunately. Going way back, you have the Beaufort scandal, where there was controversy over letting an accused person access frozen accounts and travel. The Hawala scandal, involving huge alleged illegal payments, ended with very few convictions despite the scale. More recently, the Priyadarshini Mattu murder case, the initial CBI investigation led to an acquittal amidst accusations of, quote, deliberate inaction. It took a long appeal process to finally get a conviction.
That sounds concerning. Any others?
Well, the Sister Abhaya case in Kerala that saw multiple investigations, initial failures before convictions finally happened. The Sorabudan case had serious allegations of pressure on the CBI to implicate a specific politician.
Right.
The Sant Singh Chatwal case, involving bank fraud, saw the CBI controversially not challenging his release. In the Malankara Varghese murder, there was criticism about not arresting an accused priest even after he was charged.
This is quite a pattern of controversy.
It continues. The handling of the Bhopal gas tragedy aftermath drew fire for being allegedly too soft on extradition and dropping serious charges. The 2G Spectrum case. The Supreme Court itself criticized the CBI's slow pace and ended up monitoring the investigation directly.
The Supreme Court stepping in like that is significant.
Very. And in the coal allocation scam, the CDI got into hot water for apparently sharing its investigation report with government officials before giving it to the court. That led to the caged parrot remark.
Ah, that's the context for that quote.
Yes. Then there's the Arushital Ward double murder case from 2008. Hugely controversial. The parents were convicted based on the CBI investigation, but later acquitted by the High Court, which pointed to major flaws, evidence tampering, tutored witnesses, raising serious questions about the investigation.
That case was everywhere in the news.
It was. And even very recently, a 2024 case in Kolkata involving rape and murder. The accused got bail because the CBI reportedly failed to file the charge sheet within the required 90 days. That caused huge public outrage, and the victim's parents publicly said they had no faith left in the CBI's investigation.
Gosh. These examples really do underline the challenges, the scrutiny, the high stakes involved when the CBI investigates these complex and often politically sensitive cases.
Absolutely. It shows how difficult it is for the agency to balance its crime-fighting mandate with maintaining public confidence and demonstrating independence.
Well, this has certainly been a comprehensive deep dive. We've traced the CBI's journey, haven't we? From its wartime origins fighting corruption to its current role tackling a huge range of crimes. Now with new tools like Untold, we've looked at its structure, its powers, and that really tricky issue of state consent and jurisdiction.
And also its exemption from RTI, raising those transparency questions, alongside the numerous controversies and criticisms that have, dogged it over the years and definitely impact public perception.
Exactly. So thinking about all this, its wide powers, the inherent friction in a federal system about who investigates what, the need for independence, it leaves us with a big question, really. Something for you, our listeners, to think about.
Which is,
how can an institution like the CBI be effective against serious crime while also holding on to the principles of transparency and independence that are just so vital for public trust, especially in a democracy?
that's the core dilemma, isn't it? And what role do ordinary citizens and maybe the courts play in making sure that balance is actually struck?
A crucial question indeed. Something to mull over.